look at, I guess, the various parking facilities, what they're looking for, things to consider, and then we'll mix it into, an overview of the N8000 product line and what products can be used within that line to meet the needs of various parking facilities. There are two options, I guess, for questions. If you have any questions, we can save them to the end, or there is a chat box there that you can type in any questions that you have, and I will answer them along the way. So I guess we'll get going here. Hold on 1 second. So, as I mentioned, we're going to do a parking industry overview, parking facilities and their requirements, system components, and applications. So, parking facilities, driving the market. So what's driving the market on these particular establishments? You got expanding communities and need to park. Again, ever-increasing number of cars and drivers on the road. More centralized multi-use facilities, which require parking for said vehicles. They are essential to economic growth in various metropolitan areas. As infrastructure grows in certain downtown cores, parking facilities are one option to allow facilitation of parking various vehicles. A lot of times it's multi-layer parking garages, either on top of buildings or below buildings. Another thing driving, I guess, this market would be it's an important source of revenue for buildings and facilities. Again, growth factors: cost of gas, cars, new construction, land costs is at a premium, and as well expansion of schools. So what are the trends? Heavy consolidation. Also, trends are switching to automated pay systems at pay booths in parking facilities, which attributes to fewer employees, which reduces the cost of the facility. Also, trends are heightened security. It's becoming more and more of an issue. Focus on mass notification, especially in college, shopping, transportation, sports, and theme park venues. Who owns parking facilities? Private parking companies throughout Canada, government agencies, private institutions, corporations, municipalities, and property management companies. There is a link down below, which is www.canadianparking.ca, which is a resource and a group you can join, which has a lot of information on parking facilities across Canada, trade shows and such, and various other companies that focus on this market. Types of parking facilities. Again, you've got residential, commercial, retail, school campus facilities are growing, transportation, mixed use, and profit, non-profit type of facilities. Looking at commercial, of course, that'll encompass businesses, industrial, institutional, so hospitals, government, corporate, that type of markets. Key things to look at is easy access for employees and visitors is key, as well as the security requirements. Employee safety is very important. Facility security of people who have access in and out to this facility, as well as liability for anybody that is parking or walking within these facilities. Again, this can be long or short-term users, and they could have gate access or pass type of access in the commercial side of the parking garages. Another area where we see a lot of parking structures are, of course, in the retail market. We have shopping malls popping up everywhere. Again, land is at a premium, so if they can multi-stack parking lots within the land that they have allotted to them, it's definitely advantageous to them. Very key is easy customer access, especially with merchandise. So how they can get in and out of the shopping facility to their cars easily. While the whole goal is that they're spending money within these malls, so you want to be able to have something that works for them when they're making purchases as well. A lot of the users here are short-term users, either customer or employees. And there could be a combination of gate access, ticket, or pay booths within these. Another key factor is there's continuous traffic. As opposed to a lot of commercial side or business-wise, people are constantly going in and out all day long. Security requirements, again, employee and customer safety is very key. Facility security, and again, a lot on the liability side of things. Next on to school campuses, so you have university and college facilities, short-term and regular users, so it could be students, faculty, as well as visitors. gate access, pass, and non-profit type of setups for entrance and exit. Very key is quick and easy access in and out of these facilities. A lot of times it's the same start times for classes and things like that, so it's got to be easy and lots of access to enter and exit these facilities. Of course, security requirements are quite similar: student, faculty safety, as well as liability. One other area we find a growth in parking facilities is transportation. So this could be, per se, parking at bus terminals, GO trains, things like that, as well as airport terminals. They're growing more and more, and you'll have, areas of which you can, similar to a carpool area, that you'll have access to park for long terms when catching, again, the local transportation, whether it's bus or train. Sometimes it's transport to and from various terminals, so it's off-site parking. Again, you'll leave your car for a certain period of time, and then be transported to the local airport terminal. So this can be a mix of both short and long-term usage. Similar to the others, you have gate ticketed access as well as manned pay booths. Again, security requirements, commuter safety is very key, liability, and another additional part is homeland security at these facilities, depending whether they're located right at the airport, which makes it more important, or off-site is a little bit less important, but definitely something to focus on and realize. Looking at parking system requirements, what do parking facilities want? Definitely easy in and out access for customers. That's very key. No one wants to wait, and a lot of times people may be late further maybe their planes or class or work, whatever that may be. So it's got to be nice and easy to get in and out. They want to provide a convenient, safe, and pleasant parking experience. When parking, years ago when you'd park in underground parking lots and things like that, they were always kind of dreary and drab, and there's always a security issue there and wonder, who's in there, who's waiting, things like that. So you really want to reduce those thoughts in the customer's eyes. So it's very key to look at, making this a good experience when parking. Satisfied return customers that feel happy going to those facilities and really want to reduce liability, property theft and damage and things like that. So what do they need in these parking garages? Definitely intercom stations. You want two-way communication between customers or users, attendants, and security. A lot of things you may be looking for, it may be just simple directions. It may be help. Something happened. There's someone in there. They're being approached by a stranger. They're uncomfortable. Emergency. Something's happened in there, whether it's a car breakdown or, again, someone is approaching. So, intercom communication and intercom stations throughout these facilities is key. Also, wide area paging. Where this comes into play is emergency notification. So it could be verbal announcements. Maybe there's a fire, an issue, or a gate blocked. It could be a pre-recorded message or some sort of alarm that, of course, we can transmit through the intercom stations. Maybe there's something more than that, more of a wide area coverage. So wide area paging is something that we may want to add on to the intercom stations within a facility. Thirdly, video surveillance or CCTV connectivity. There's got to be some visual monitoring and recording of events. So, if someone does press an intercom substation button for help or just directions, you may have a camera located in that area, pan-tilt, zoom camera, something like that you'd want to focus in exactly where the person is that's initiating the call. It definitely adds for, safety of the facility because everything is under surveillance, but also we can give a better idea of what that emergency may be, what's entailed, if there is a help button pressed and employed. So what can TOA provide? Again, we definitely have a full, tried, tested, and true line of intercoms in our N8000. So we have various master and door stations, a multi-station zone paging through our intercom product, and allow connectivity to access control and or CCTV. Also, we have, of course, with TOA, got multi-zone audio paging. So a wide variety of products, amplifiers, speakers, horns, digital message repeaters, microphones to meet any facility's needs. Also, we allow full connectivity between the intercom and CCTV products. We do have a full line of pan-tilt zoom cameras, fixed dome cameras, and our intercom product will allow connectivity between these two. And we'll discuss that a little bit further as we move forward. So we'll go into the N8000 intercom product from TOA. go over, some of the functionality of it, what it does offer. So it's a network communication over IP. So it's an IP-based system. And it could be fully IP, or you can have basically a hybrid between hardwired analog and IP, which brings the next point. So again, you can have the combination of IP, hardwired, and this can utilize potential existing infrastructure. And a facility, if they're looking to renovate new, then you could run Cat5, for the substations, tie them onto a local network connection, and that can be, quite cost-effective if depending on the runs that are needed, or if there's existing infrastructure already at Intercom locations. But sometimes, depending on, multiple factors, it could be budget, where they can't afford to run new wires. It could be just the length or getting to, getting through conduit. Maybe there's no room in conduit, and it's hard to get access to various substations or different areas of a parking facility. So maybe utilizing existing infrastructure is a key point. So you could have potentially a parking facility that has a new expansion on it where you want to go full IP substations, and an existing area which maybe you want to utilize existing hardwire there. When it comes to the hardwired side of things, it could be two-wire shielded, or two-pair twisted. So we have some options there depending on what they may use. Also, within the overview, depending on which station you go with, you have full duplex or half duplex conversation. The half duplex comes into play with any RS type substations. Depending on how you're designing it, all stations could be masters. Not so important in this type of application, but you're not really limited to how many masters you would have when you're designing such a thing. Substations, they do have an open collector on the output. So if you want to, and we'll illustrate this a little bit further as we move forward, but you may want to trigger a strobe if a substation is activated, maybe call up a local pan-tilt zoom camera or any other kind of external device. So again, there is an open collector that can be initiated once a button is pressed on a substation, and then it's a matter of adding a relay and tying that into any local equipment that you want to control directly at the substation location. So again, that can save runs back to the head end if that's where the control is. If you have local control out in a certain area at maybe a parking pay station or something like that, if you have a camera there, you can tie right locally into that. So that's just save a little bit of labor. You can have up to, it's 192, should be IP nodes, so IP devices on this system. So 192 maximum IP stations, and a total of 3,072 stations in total. So what that is can be potentially is, if you're going full IP with the N8000, the maximum station would be 192. But you could have a combination of IP devices tying into hardware devices, and we'll cover that as we move forward. But a standard type IP device may be one of our exchanges, which can handle 16 substations. So if you take 16 times 192, that's how we get to the 3,072. You have up to 4 internal or 8 external voice links through each exchange. And you got a wide variety of substations and interfaces for interaction between CCTV and access control systems. So this is kind of a very basic overview here of some of the stations and some of the products within the line. Of course, we've got our network here. So everything is connected to a network. This could be an existing network at the facility, or it could be as simple as a switch or something like that. So, if you wanted to tie various IP systems together, all the IP systems go back to a certain area, then again, it's just a simple switch to set up the system. Or again, you can use existing infrastructure and ride on the existing IP. So over here, we'll look at some of our IP stations. So we've got an IP master with display, an IP master without display, as well as an IP door station or substation, or call station, whichever you'd like to call it. So these go directly to Cat5 connection right onto the network. We also have a variety of hardwired non-IP stations with display, without display, ruggedized, without handset, flush mount, as well as substation or call box. These are non-IP, so they go back 2-wire to an exchange. This exchange can handle 16 devices. Could be a combination of masters or substations, and this gets thrown on the network. Also, we have released recently 2 different RS boxes here. So we've got the 8400 and then the 8010. This is, when we look at this particular unit, the 8010 RS or the 8000 RS, this handles some of our older legacy products, so our VS900s and our prior intercoms like that. This is where you can utilize older infrastructure, two-wire stranded, things like that. Maybe it's a facility that has an older VS900 system and maybe it's starting to fail or things like that. You can potentially utilize the existing substations there and just add a new exchange that'll throw it on into the IP world. So again, we have a full variety of RS substations, vandal resistant all-weather, and then we have vandal resistant with a red call button. So depending on what the requirements are in the facility, we have substations to meet their needs. Again, depending on wiring, you may have two-pair twisted, which brings us into our RS 400 series substations. Again, older substations have been around a while, so again, if there's existing infrastructure or existing substations, you can utilize them within the solution and throw them back onto the IP side of things. Keep in mind the RS version substations are half duplex, so it's one way back and forth, it's not full open voice. When you get into the N/ versions of substation, whether IP or non-IP, they are full hands-free duplex. Other modules that can be added to the N8000 system, we have a connection to maybe a phone system. We've got the CO box over here, which can maybe port forward to a security cell phone or something like that. So if a call goes in at a parking facility and to the central office and maybe the guard is out, for whatever reason, it can forward to maybe a cell phone or something like that. You go to an analog telephone system. Over here, we've got the AF box, which can take an output system to, again, wide area paging, as I mentioned earlier. So this can potentially tie into a TOA amplifier and a various array of horn speakers throughout a parking garage, so you can basically notify of any kind of situation that may be occurring. Lastly, we have the DI box over here, which is 32 input and output contact controls. On this box, where this is used a lot, would be located near where the security office would be, and you may want to use this to call up certain cameras. So if there's a substation, maybe substation number 1 gets pressed, it gets tied through, everything's tied through via the network, and in the software you can associate this DI box to say, okay, contact closure number 1 is associated with substation or call button number 1, and it's automatically going to pull up a camera on a local screen, or if it's a pan-tilt zoom camera, it may associate that camera to a certain position, so it turns around and adjusts and focus right on that call station. So there's lots of reasons you may want to use this contact DI box. All other reasons may be initiating strobes, also initiating door releases in a facility or gate, or the opening of gates. Back again to a little bit of breakdown when selecting various products. So you've got, when you're looking at these substations, this N version here, these substations are all one pair shielded. They're desktop masters. When we look at wall mount products, we've got wall mount, flush mount call stations. Also available are versions which are circuit board only. So maybe you're doing something more customized. Instead of having a panel, putting that directly in a wall or on a call gate or some kind of pod in a facility, maybe you want to put the circuitry inside, customize that, and put a customized plate on the front, cut out a button, and make it, again, fully customized for your client's needs. So there's options there to buy the electronics separately. We also have a master in that version. So these would tie back to the exchanges, so the 8000 or the 8010 EX exchanges. Then we can look at the RS substations. So as you can see, there's a separation in the RS substations. You have 2-core shielded, or you have Type 4 station wire. So again, you have various non-vandal resistant over here. Then you get into the vandal resistant options as well. And then within the vandal resistant options of substations, you've got the outdoor vandal resistant. Also, these tie back to RS exchanges. So you have the 8000 or the 8010. This depends on speech links, whether you have single speech links or two within with the exchange. And what the speech link is how many conversations can happen at one time. If it's a facility that only has one master, then there's no sense going to multiple speech lanes, because there's only got to be one conversation between a substation and a master at one time. If you have multiple subs that will be answering said calls, then you may want to look at units with more speech lanes internally. Then finally here at the bottom, we've got our IP solution. So you've got an IP master with display, again, IP master without display, and an IP-based substation or call station. Looking at parking lots, we'll get into that side and how it relates to the intercom products we kind of went over. So design parameters, intercom. Big key is what will the infrastructure be for the facility? Is it IP where network wiring is available? One point to note is, again, the IP products are PoE, so 300 feet from a switch to node. Again, it can be power over Ethernet, within a system. If you're beyond those distances, then of course you have to add external power to any IP device, meaning master or substation. So is it IP going to these locations? Is it analog? Is it 2-wire or 4-wire available? When you're dealing with 2 and 4-wire runs, distance can be between 3,000 up to over 7,000 feet. It depends on the gauge. The gauge is a chart which is downloadable on our website within the NA1000, gives you the different gauge requirements. Or definitely you can call our tech department and say, okay, this is the distance we're dealing with. Will this gauge work? But you can get great distances on the 2-wire as well. So again, just to reiterate, you have to look at what you want to run. Is it Cat5? Are you able to utilize existing Cat5? Is it 1 pair stranded, 2 core shielded, or 2 twisted pairs? One thing to keep in mind is, IP products tend to be a little bit more expensive than analog versions, but there's pros and cons to each. An IP device, you can see if it fails, there's going to be notification, that type of thing, where if you're dealing with an analog device, you don't get that kind of notification. So you may want to look, at which way is more feasible depending on budget. So it allows you the flexibility of going to meet, high stringent needs where IP is definitely the way to go. Or if you're dealing with budget, you can go with an analog version of substations back to the master. If need be, in higher distances are needed, you can use repeaters or fiber optic converters can be used in large facilities, airports at very long distances. As mentioned, for IP system, PoE may be used for stations and converters within a certain range. Also to look at, is there a need to activate strobe lights or cameras? And where do you want to activate those from? Do you want it automatic? Or do you want it, once a call is received? That type of thing. Is 1 or 2-way communication required? Of course, with an intercom system, you can have 2-way communication back. But maybe there's certain areas where you don't need 2-way. You just want to, again, a general page. So you see someone within a facility. Maybe it's someone looking to potentially vandal a car or something like that, some kind of theft, is looking towards that kind of problem. You might want to just have the master and the person in the security desk do a general mass area page. So there's no 2-way communication there. It's more to inhibit someone from coming in. Yes, we see you by this area. Please remove yourself. There's no need to talk back and forth there. You're just notifying, someone that, yes, we see what's going on here. Please remove yourself. So, you might need either or. Again, are there multiple sites to be tied together? And that's the great thing about an IP solution, is that you can have multiple parking facilities and tie them all together to one centralized monitoring station. Because it is IP, you can do that. So that's very, very nice, and it may offer cost savings as well to the client, because he doesn't have multiple people manning stations locally. It could be fully automated with one central notification area. Again, as mentioned prior, will CCTV systems be installed in certain areas? Very key to know that, because if they are there, you may as well have them triggered so they come up in case of call of a substation. What are the key areas in parking garages? Main parking corridors and hallways. So parking stalls, pedestrian traffic areas, cameras for surveillance, intercom, paging, theft prevention, vandalism, and personal safety are definitely key factors in that area. Pedestrian access, stairwells, elevators. Maybe sometimes these areas can be overlooked, but if someone is in these areas going outside of a mall or something like that, a casino, there's going to be some kind of communication and some kind of help and call safety buttons there as well. So be sure not to overlook these, as well as elevators potentially, which could be tied together. So again, there's cameras are going to be in there that may be tied together, intercom, paging. Very much a key for personal safety in those areas. Finally, you've got entry and exit areas. So entry gates and pay booths, whether they be manned or non-manned. It may be a matter of certain, in a high traffic time, then you want these booths manned, but after a certain period of time, maybe the traffic decreases. Maybe a school during the evenings or something like that, where you don't necessarily need these booths manned, but then you can forward that to a central security location. Again, key is going to be have cameras for surveillance. You want intercom, maybe some signage there that is triggered, which can be triggered from our call buttons. And it's security, personal safety, and theft. So substation areas or call station areas, where would these go? These are typical areas where you'd see some substation areas. Maybe a ticket booth area. Again, you go into a facility, and you'll see these in a lot of casinos and places like that, where they'll have within or in a mall certain allocated areas where you go and prepay for your parking. Maybe there's an issue there. You're having a problem with the machine, or you've lost your ticket. Again, that's a good area to have an intercom station. It could be routed on a different priority level as other stations, but again, there's a need for communication back and forth to a central security office or something like that. Definitely at pay stations, on your way out or way in, there's need for communication right there on the pay station areas. If it's unmanned and fully automated, there's a need to have a substation built in there. Again, my ticket got eaten, or there's some kind of issue there. The gate's not opening, so you definitely need communication. Down below, I didn't have a picture, so I kind of put something together here, but this is, some kind of a call pod or help pod in underground parking. You'll see them quite frequently, again, the various areas, and usually there's always one within sight when you park your car in a facility. So regardless of where you look, you're going to see one of these help locations. At those locations, there's going to be a substation. A lot of times there's going to be a strobe and some kind of camera. So if there is some kind of problem below there, for whatever reason you have to, at least you can get to that, press that button. That's going to initiate a priority call to the security desk. That opens up two-way communication. It's going to trigger a light. Again, it's got to draw attention to that area. You may want to also add, a speaker, some kind of a predetermined recording, some kind of audio signaling there, potentially, as well as definitely a camera. So if someone does press this button, if you do have a local pan-tilt zoom camera there just cycling through the facility for surveillance reasons, you definitely probably want to bring this right up to the person that's initiating the call. Maybe to help them out to see what's going on, or maybe you see someone that's just playing a prank and pressing the button. At least you have information on who that is. Of course, maybe there's parking shelters at GO trains or off-site parking at airports. Very typical to see this style of parking shelter. So an intercom is nice. You could press the button that initiates a call. You may want to have pre-recorded message going through that. Depending on the size of the system, sometimes we can stream audio and just to create a certain ambience to some substations as well. So at least it gives some kind of communication back to us from master to these various waiting locations. Masked areas. So of course, typically you have a security office, which is going to have the various surveillance for cameras and so forth. My drawing somehow got manipulated some here, but you have a manual for visual camera display, which would be here. Again, this can be triggered that once a call station is pressed, it automatically drops up a camera to full screen, so you can see exactly what's going on at that call location. You might have a paging microphone for general emergency paging, so it's an analog paging microphone that will tie into an amplifier and to overhead speakers to page in a certain wide area locations to cover a whole facility or whole parking garage. And of course, you're going to have your intercom master station over here. So this is where you're going to hear the calls. You're going to come up. Again, 99% of times you're going to want to have a master station with a display, so you know exactly which station is calling you to have that information. Other areas for master location are going to be generally pay stations, manned pay stations. So within a large facility, they can receive the call, and you can communicate back and forth from those area locations. But as I mentioned, maybe I know in my area in Toronto, there's various long-term parking lots, or maybe 3 different lots with 3 different attendants. But after, let's say, 12 o'clock, the usage goes down. So maybe you streamlet that to one manned location. So, there's a lot of cost savings you can bring to your customer with an IP solution, because you can tie them all together. So just to reiterate the products being used, you've got the IP substation, which can be used, call station, the N8540DS, directly onto your network. Direct connection there. Then we have the analog versions, the 8050DS or the 8050SB. So that's either a finished product in the DS, or you can have the circuit board alone if you want to customize your installation. They go to your exchange. Again, 2 versions of exchanges depending on the speech links required. And these exchanges can handle 16 of these stations. So 16 can go onto one of these exchanges. Again, straight connection to your network. Utilizing existing infrastructure, you may have, again, twisted pair there where you want to go with the RS400 series. So you've got vandal resistant outdoors, and vandal resistant outdoors with a red call button. These go back to the 8400 RS station, which can handle, again, 16 devices. Then that goes, again, directly onto your network. 2 core shielded, similar. You've got a vandal resistant, a vandal waterproof, water resistant with a red call button. 2 options for exchanges depending on the speech links. And again, 16 stations per exchange there. Back onto the network. And finally, as I mentioned over here, with regards to substations, you could have an analog master as well. Analog master goes to the same substation as the substations, the same exchange as the substations do. So again, it's your N8000EX or your N8010EX, 16 substations. And finally, you can have IP-only masters. So they don't have to tie on any local exchange. They can just, wherever there's a network location, bam, plug one of these in, configure it via the software, and it's a nice, easy way to expand the system without having to run wire or anything like that. If down the road, maybe there's multiple security desks, and they want to expand that down the road, and things like that, or they decide they want to reduce the amount of attendance or increase the amount of attendance, it's a matter of just tying into the network, and you're off to the races. Just to quickly go over how these exchanges or RS exchanges, regardless of whether they're 2-wire, 4-wire, how they all connect together. It's pretty straightforward. On the back of your exchanges, there's connections for each substation. So again, we're looking at the RS400 substations tying back to the 8400 exchange. So you got 16 ports, 16 substations. This connects onto your LAN, whether it's a switch or your local network. And you could simply, in a very basic system, we're adding 1 master here. So that could potentially be a very simplistic 16 call station garage system. So you've got 16 call stations thrown onto exchange, thrown to your network, and you have an IP master. Very basic communication. So there's not a lot of product involved, and it's nice and streamlined. If you wanted to initiate any door release from here, you can do that from the IP master. That would go, again, tie in through the exchange, send that signal back to the door station, which have an open collector. So from there, you would add potentially a relay to release a gate, or again, activate a camera or a strobe or something as such. We have some add-ons beyond the product we just described that didn't come into play in certain parking facilities. We have the N8000MI box. What this adds is 2 audio inputs and outputs. So again, it may be a matter of you want to input audio through the system, background music going through some of the substations, maybe it's in the elevator locations or something like that. This allows you to do that, input audio in the system, as well as output audio. So it could be paging output or something like that, and do an all call. So through this, you can initiate a page through a master and connect an amplifier to this MI box, amplifier speakers, and you can have wide area paging. On board, you do have 16 contact inputs, and that should be outputs available to call up cameras, strobes, things like that, release door locks. As I mentioned, can be used to page amplifier speakers. Contacts can be used for CCD and access control, and call up cameras and door and gates and such. So that's something you may want to add on to it to add more flexibility within the system. The other product that you may want to look at is the NA1000AF. So this gives you one mic or line level input. So it could be a music source, just to transmit that through, but more likely you may want a mic input. Also gives you one line output and 8 contact inputs and outputs. So it's more of a scaled down version of the NA1000 depending on what the requirements are. So it's scaled down over the MI box. What it also does have is time and chime functionality. If for some reason you need chimes at certain periods of time to come through the system, it'll allow you to do that. More likely not so much in garages and things like that. We use this more in the school side of things, but it's some functionality that is there and built into it. As I mentioned earlier, there's also the NA1000DI box. Again, very important if you're going to start playing with camera strobes, door releases, gates, and things as such, because you have 32 contact input and output. So lots of control there. Lots of control to tie into, again, not necessarily controlling products like CCTV and turning cameras and opening doors, but maybe it's to tie into access control systems, or maybe it's to tie into a security alarm system to notify some mass notification to security guards all over there's an issue in a certain quadrant or a certain area. So it allows a lot of flexibility and customization within a facility. Additionally, we have the NA1000CO box. So this connects to a telephone line. So potentially you could forward to a cell phone or something like that. If again there's only one guard on duty, but sometimes he maybe does rounds or something like that, and he has a dedicated cell phone. This can forward a potential call from a substation to a cell phone number, or a cell phone, or some kind of analog line. So that adds a nice feature. Looking at application, again, similar to what we went through, but you've got your network here, your LAN. As I mentioned, it could be an existing network, or it could be a simple, $100 switch. It doesn't have to be complex. Connected to that, you have an IP master station. Also, maybe you have, and I didn't mention this before, is you could add the AF box, which will also allow recording. So maybe once a master receives a call, you want to automatically start recording that, just to document what the call is about, whether it's been handled correctly, things like that. So there's an option there that you can record for every master. You can record a channel output. This has to be connected to an external recording device. Maybe it's a DVR or some kind of digital server audio recorder, but you do have that functionality. Also connected to this network, you've got the NA1000RS exchange, maybe utilizing, again, 2-wire substation, analog substations. Over here, we have a bank there. Maybe we couldn't get any Cat5 there, or there's no network locations or drops there, so we had to go analog there. But there's this a new area or new add-on in this particular application. So these can be IP. So we're throwing these directly, or sorry, my mistake, these are directly onto the RS station as well. So these are all analog substations, tying back to the RS exchange. As I mentioned before, you've got the NA1000DI box. Again, DI box is for contacts. So we can initiate opening up a gate, setting off a strobe, or anything like that, or again, send information back to trigger a predetermined position on the pan-tilt zoom camera. So this is a very typical, garage parking facility and some flexibility. Gate opening, strobes, camera, communication, and again, the recording functionality is nice. This is very similar to the slide before, but it does show you some of the products as we're using it, and so you can get more of a picture again, looking at the master. And we can have communication. There could be an output, again, of this master recording to a DVR. We've got the DI box, as I mentioned, with contacts connected to the contact inputs of a DVR to start, again, recording of a camera as well as changing the position. We've got communication back and forth on the exchange here to the network, which is also initiated from your substation over here. And for some reason, part of my PowerPoint get messed up there, but disregard that arrow there. So we've got a button pressed. As soon as that button pressed, strobe light's got to come on. Contact's got to go through the exchange, which is connected to the network, which is also connected to an IP master, and then you can release a gate back through the network as well. So you have lots of connectability through this particular system. The DA box is taking care of initiating, recording, camera call-up, as well as gate release. As I mentioned before, you've got the NA1000DI box. Again, DI box is for contacts. So we can initiate opening up a gate, setting off a strobe, or anything like that, or again, send information back to trigger a predetermined position on the pan-tilt zoom camera. So this is a very typical, garage parking facility and some flexibility. Gate opening, strobes, camera, communication, and again, the recording functionality is nice. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes there may be multiple sites that you want to tie together, and the system does it quite well. Again, if you look at this particular scenario, we've got a network or LAN or whatever you want to call it in the middle. Could be a switch, but usually if there's multiple sites, you're going to have some kind of network. We've got the internet, so you can tie that together with a matter of port forwarding. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sites. Each site locally has an exchange, multiple substations, and again, then we have that going back to the network. We have an IP master at each location. So again, you're tying all these back and forth. Now, if for some reason in site, again, there's someone taking a break at this master location, that can port forward so that if someone presses a substation in site A, site B, C, or D can answer that particular system. Again, a lot of the cameras and CCTV systems are all networks, so you can view those remotely. Same as the audio calls, same as the contact closures to control those systems and gate releases. So again, you can reduce needed attendance in a certain area or add redundancy. When it comes to life safety, there's some redundancy needed. So God forbid, let's say something failed in this particular unit, the attendant dropped coffee on it. At least it doesn't leave this leg of the system inoperable. The calls can still be initiated and they can be answered at remote sites, tying this all together. Some other security features when it comes to the N8000 and parking facilities is, as I mentioned, recording of conversation and paging. So a page station scan, so you can scan the conversation from a master, or it can be recorded to any audio equipment connected to the audio interface, which is the N8000 AF. So that's really nice. Again, you can have that set up so once a call station is initiated, when you have that camera focus on that location, it automatically starts, you initiate the protocol to allow the DVR to record the video as well as the audio. So exactly what's going on, both visually and audibly at that location. Again, only masters connected to the N8000EX can record paging conversation. And this is kind of how recording conversation is connected. You've got you answer an incoming call at a master. That master is connected to an exchange. So of course, if the master is connected to exchange, it's not IP because it wouldn't be needed if it was IP. So we have the exchange connected to a network, and we have an AF box. So this is also connected to the network. So the audio is going through here, through the exchange, through the network, connecting to the AF box, which is output to the recording device. Now, you can have it so it records all the time, or you probably want to trigger it. So once that call is initiated from your master, it triggers your recording device to begin recording. So that way you're saving a lot of disk space and things like that. The various products out there for recording, they all set up differently. Some sense, a certain amount of dB input for audio signal, then start recording. Once that dips below that certain dB level, then they stop. But depending on what's there, maybe they have something existing and allows you to configure it depending on what the requirements are and what equipment may or may not be there. So a little bit more about how the audio interface can be used. We have an IP master connected directly to a network. We have an IP call station directly to a network. We've got a player or message recorder. Maybe it's a pre-recorded message recorder in case of life safety. Everybody has to remove himself. This will basically play saying there's an issue, maybe exit a certain wing east or west wing. We can send that into the AF box, which can potentially be transmitted out to the various line of speakers. And things like that, or it could be just background music throughout this. So there's various ways you can use this audio interface box in a facility. Then we'll look at, the N8000. Everything is set up for the N8000 via software. So software is fairly similar to a telephone system. It's fairly intuitive, lots of flexibility when it comes to call queuing. Again, if you only have one master, you can definitely queue up multiple substations that are pushed in one time. You're going to get notification of these substations, who they are, things like that. You can route certain substations to certain masters that may be important to you. You can have call forwarding, so you have a primary master, which will then forward to secondary masters, or again, as I mentioned with the CO box, it could forward to a cell phone or something else like that. You can set up paging zones throughout the software as well. One neat feature as well is that there is status monitoring or event monitoring built into the software. which again will allow you to pinpoint and print off a log of when substations might be initiated, when there's calls, any communication going on at all within the system. It's going to log that. So maybe, again, you might want to go back to archive video if you weren't able to set it up to record at a live event, but look and see what was going on in a certain area, or maybe other cameras at a